Hello, MJ Clemenco here, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, and life coach. Tonight I'd like to talk to you about knowing the difference between someone who is acting angry around you and someone who is out of control or just plain mean and they're taking it out on you. I've worked with many people who think they're being kind to their partner because they're not saying anything back. They're allowing their partner to be on a rant or stomp around muttering. And sometimes it's okay. If you know that your partner has had a tough day, saying, "Can I get you something? I'm sorry that this happened to you," can quickly calm a person down. Or suggesting that your partner do something with you and say, "I think you need to relax and I'd like to help you do that." That's one thing. The other kind is not someone being angry because they're hurting and they're just being angry in front of you or in the car. They're not being angry at you, is what I just described, but they are sounding quite angry. Now, I have to qualify the not being angry at you. If somebody's angry, even if they're not angry at you, if you try to interact and they call you names or put you down or they're sarcastic or they threaten to leave you or threaten to get divorced or what, anything like that, it doesn't matter whether or not they're hurting, because you cannot allow a person to be mean to you. We teach people how to treat us. And when you allow someone to be mean to you by the things I just named, you're not doing anyone any good, because the person who's being mean to you will continue being mean to you. Why? Because they can. But that's not based on the anger that the person is feeling. Let's say the person is angry and they might be yelling, they might be stomping around. They might throw something as long as it's a towel and soft. But still, they're not angry at you, and you can offer the comfort, any comfort that you know they would appreciate, unless any of the other things I listed are happening. On the other hand, there's a kind of person who has very low self-esteem, usually drinks alcohol. And you don't have to be an alcoholic to be de-inhibited. You can have a couple of drinks. So I'm not suggesting that everyone who has a couple of drinks and gets angry should stop drinking. But I am suggesting that you be aware if the angry person / partner in front of you or next to you has been drinking, it's a bad idea to engage at all. And in the case of someone with low self-esteem, someone who feels like a victim, feels like life hasn't given them a break, and feels like in this moment when they really want to be mad at you, that you're to blame. If not all to blame, at least partially to blame. And they too put you down, call you names, and are sarcastic. But they're not coming from a place of frustration. Let me be clear. Whether it's somebody who has low self-esteem and is being mean to you just because they can, or someone who's having a bad day, in either one of those cases, you should not allow anyone to call you names, put you down, threaten you in any way, and so on. And if that happens, no matter what the case is, you stop and say, "Please don't talk to me like that." If they continue on, then maybe you do need to get in your car and go see a friend. If it's the case of someone who has very low self-esteem and they're just angry, they're angry at the world, they're victims, they didn't get that promotion because the world is against them, their boss is against them, their coworkers are against them. Um, any number of things. That's just one example. There are numerous things. And it's very important that you learn to recognize the difference between somebody who's just mean-spirited, and because you happen to be there and you're a nice person, they're just going to take it out on you. Because they don't care. They don't think about you hurting. And they won't think about you hurting later. They won't apologize, and they won't say, when they've calmed down, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. A person who's upset will. They will say later, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gotten so angry in front of you. Well, let's go back to the person who has low self-esteem, who's the victim, whose life is just not turning out right, and they, of course, have had nothing to do with it. And if they are drinking alcohol or using drugs, they really are going to tell you they didn't have anything to do with it. No way. And that's the kind of person you just don't need to be around. And that's why you need to determine which is which. Because people get upset. And you can have a lifetime partnership with someone. And during the course of that lifetime, both of you will get upset from time to time. And you might raise your voices, but you're not going to hit below the belt. If you found yourself in a relationship with somebody that you think, if you're just nicer or quieter or calmer, or you understand why they're calling you names, believe me, they're not going to get better. They're not going to stop doing it. And the quality of your life is going to suffer severely because the person who's doing it to you has no incentive to change at all. If you find that you are in a relationship where you just never know when the other person's going to get angry at you, and you just never know when you're going to be blamed for doing something wrong, or blamed, just blamed, then we can have a list of 100 items you can choose. But there are many things that people blame other people for. And that's the person that will not stop. It's your fault. It's somebody else's fault. And you are not going to be able to fix them. If they agree to go to therapy, not marriage counseling or relationship counseling. Because somebody who's mean doesn't need to be in counseling with you. They need to go to therapy to figure out what's going on. Why are they being mean? Where is that coming from? It probably has nothing to do with you, and they probably brought it with them to the relationship. So they can go to counseling. They can work on their own to recognize that they need to do something to raise their self-esteem. They need to recognize that it isn't okay to hurt someone else, no matter how upset they are. It isn't okay. And so here we have two situations. One situation, the person is angry and upset and has a raised voice and may even be running around the house or running around outside because something has occurred in their life that is really painful for them. And they've gone right past the pain and they're in the anger now because there's a lot of adrenaline anger. And being angry feels better, unfortunately, versus a mean, angry human being that you may have low self-esteem. You may think you're a loser. You may think all kinds of negative things about yourself. And so you go to therapy because you need it. But you also need to remove yourself from the presence of a person who is just mean and won't do anything about it. And the first thing you need to do is stand up. to that person. And I don't mean get in their face. And I don't mean giving them back what they're giving to you. I mean being very calm, very controlled, saying, don't talk to me like that, please. Or, I'm not going to listen to you unless you want to talk to me in a calm way and you're not going to put me down or call me names. And they may do that, but it's unlikely. You also need to remember that if that person has any history of violence whatsoever, you need to remove yourself because you can get seriously hurt. Someone may start out by pushing you, but that's usually not where it's going to end. It may end at that time, but again, if there hasn't been any incentive to make that person stop, it'll go from pushing to yelling to threatening to leave you, You don't need it. You're better than that. And you don't need to live a life where you're constantly afraid, second guessing yourself, hoping that your partner isn't going to be angry that day. And that's another way you can tell. Because a person with really low self-esteem who really doesn't like themselves or themselves is going to do this frequently, like once a week, twice a week, maybe even more. A person who's having a bad day or who's gotten some bad news or is feeling upset about something is not going to do this very often. I mean, it could be once a month. I would hope not, but it could be. But you won't see the same pattern. You won't see something repeating over and over again. And you're always on the receiving end of why that person is mad or upset or whatever they want to call it. You are not to blame. And you need, if you can't leave, if you can't say to that person, I'm not going to live like this unless you go to some counseling. And I say don't go to couples counseling because in couples counseling, the therapist works with the couple and assumes that everybody is guilty of something. And maybe everybody is guilty of something. But first of all, the person needs to find out what's going on with them. And then after that, marriage counseling or partnership counseling is just fine. But be aware that you don't want a therapist working with both of you as if you're both equally to blame. If you know your partner has a serious anger problem, there are self-help books for that, if your partner were willing to read one. Again, if it's a person who has really low self-esteem, doesn't like themselves, is drinking alcohol or using drugs, or not. Some people don't use anything and they can be meaner than junkyard dogs. I don't know why that happens, but I know it does happen. And I know that what I'm talking about is something that is very important that you discern, because many people are being abused because they are trying to understand their partner. They're trying to be good. They're trying to be kind. And it's not going to work. And many other people are being good and are being kind and are listening. And it is going to work because it's a situational issue and the partner, your partner, is not actually angry at you, even though they may look very angry. Think about this and think about how tolerating somebody who consistently treats you like you're nothing is going to translate to how you feel about yourself. It won't be good. You need to be around people who value you, who enjoy you. And don't think that if you walk away from one person who's abusing you, psychologically, verbally, or physically, that there is nobody else for you in your life. There is. There really is. But the first thing you have to do is stand up and acknowledge to yourself that you're not a person who has so little going on in life that you just have to take it. No, you don't. You really don't. And I hope for many of you who are watching this, who are being kind and considerate and nice and are getting abused over and over and over again, that you really consider it's not a situation where your kindness is going to help. It's a situation where you have managed to get into a relationship unbeknownst to you. When I say managed, you didn't do it on purpose. To get into a relationship where you are being abused. A person doesn't have to hit you to abuse you. They don't have to shove you. They don't have to stay out all night. People can abuse you by the way they talk to you. So think about that. And I hope this is helpful. Nobody deserves to be treated poorly. Nobody. Good night.